Nicole.
I'm Ken.
This is Access.
And it's...
And we're going to talk about 2 Kings.
Yes.
Yes. Now, the authorship, context, all that stuff, same thing as 1 Kings. So, go back and watch it if you don't remember. That's kind of rude, but that's what we're going to say. And in our last video, we gave you guys the challenge to think about toleration as we were like, how does toleration work into this? And what are these books saying about other religions, other cultures? Because that's a hard question. And I think a lot of times people read it as being very anti-other, very pro-Jewish. And, you know,
it is written.
It is written from the Jewish standpoint.
Although it's as critical about its own people as
right.
it is about others, to be fair.
It is. And so we were thinking about this issue of toleration and how it kind of relates back to us today, where we want to be a tolerant people. You know, that's a good word. That's a good sounding. It's a very positive word, and I think something that the church advocates for. You know,
and we live in a diverse culture.
We live in a diverse culture.
Need to figure out how to do that.
And so what we kind of came up with is we tolerate diversity and tolerate differences. That's fine. Like, that's good, that's positive. We don't tolerate bad behavior. You know, we don't tolerate people hurting other people, saying, well, this is what I want to do. Why aren't you tolerant of my lifestyle of exploitation?
Yeah.
And that would be the real difference, and I think that difference is lost a lot of times in the conversation nowadays. But that would be a really very real distinction during the Old Testament times, and I think it's real for us now too.
Well, it is, and I just speak historically to that, because what Nicole's talking about is if the distinction is we tolerate differences and divergent viewpoints and all that, but we do not tolerate like behavior that's hurtful. This is really a helpful way to talk about Judaism in this 8th century in comparison with the religions of the land that are around it, the religious expressions. One of the things that we know, and we've got good evidence for this, part of what was part of the religious fabric in the Canaanite pagan expression there, child sacrifice, ritual child sacrifice. And we know that some of the Jews also began to kind of participate in this. It's where we get the story we didn't look at, but of the sacrifice of Isaac in Genesis. And the resounding statement from the Jewish, from the Hebrew God's perspective is no, you don't boil your children in milk. And you remember that kid in the milk?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, we don't do that with our children. Another thing that we see pervasive in the religious expressions around Judaism in Canaan is sexual exploitation of young people. Temple,
men and women.
Yeah, men and women. Temple prostitution. This is a longer conversation, but the term fornication does not mean just sex outside of marriage. No, fornix is the pagan temple arch. And fornication is technically any sex that occurs underneath the fornix, or that temple arch. And what would happen is you would go to church. This is how you get people to come to church. And then they would pay money to have sex with a young person who is standing in for that god.
Yeah.
Again, like our tradition, this Hebrew tradition is coming in saying, no, you don't have to. In fact, you shouldn't worship God like this. Because the Hebrew God, part of what we're hearing there is this is a God of justice. This is a God of all people and is a blessing to all people. And part of what we see in these other expressions in that time period is you have rich people have more access to God because they can pay for it. And we see the exploitation and really the oppression of young people, of poor people. So in their day, this is part of why you see this expression against the Baals and the followers of Asherah. It's not just that they're against the other religious beliefs, it's they're against the expressions that are so negative and hurtful. So it's our attempt to kind of...
Yeah, and so that's one of those places where you navigate between toleration of belief or or diversity versus toleration of bad practices. And I think when we talk about it that way, it makes a lot more sense.
And then it makes sense. The Hebrew Bible makes more sense too, because that's how you can understand how it criticizes its own leaders
Yes.
and its own people. And it's not criticizing their beliefs,
No.
but it's criticizing their behavior.
Yeah. Because it's never blindly just
Pro-Israel.
Pro-Israel.
No.
Very much so. It's not.
Yep.
Which we will see in 2 Kings.
So I hope that's helpful. I think that was a good way to put it, Nicole.
Yeah. That took some thinking.
Yeah.
And we would love for you guys to share your thoughts with that. Talk to Ken about it. I'll keep saying talk to Ken about it because I actually won't be here.
Yeah. But through these videos, we will be remembering Nicole as she's in Boston.
I am haunting you. Get used to it.
So, what do you want to say about 2 Kings history and context?
I'm gonna say that it picks up right where 1 Kings leaves off. It starts with the reign of Uriah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's Uriah. I might be saying that wrong. Of Israel. So we're starting out in Israel, Northern Kingdom. And his reign lasted from around 851 to 849 BC.
And they're going to have a chart. With
You guys
all
are
these
going to have a
different
chart.
kings.
It's going to be fine. I'm going to say you guys have a chart.
Yeah.
And it goes from there to the fall of Jerusalem in 586. A little dyslexic. It's okay. So it covers about 300 years. And it's pretty much going downhill the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of the context that we're working with here. Okay?
Yeah, in terms of the themes, I think the great theme of 2 Kings is the fragility of human institutions.
Yeah.
We can build things up, and we can make them look strong and beautiful, and
We can gild it
yeah.
all we want. They
But
like
we-
to gild.
but we cannot make them last. That is beyond our power. And in 2 Kings, we see the fall of these incredible and strong institutions.
I think also, especially with the destruction of the temple, that no matter how much we think that God is on our side and the
Yes.
things that we've done are God's things, God isn't limited to our institutions, which I think is really interesting.
Well, it reminds me
Yeah.
so much of Abraham Lincoln, and I haven't.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't remember the quote exactly, but during the time when our own nation was divided between
Mhm.
North and South, and then Lincoln acknowledges that we pray to a God who isn't for the North or for the South, but is the God for
Yeah. And
all of us underneath.
yeah, and that we shouldn't, I think he has another one of those quotes where it's like, we shouldn't be praying for God to be on our side.
Yeah.
We need to be praying that we're on God's side.
That's the quote I was trying to think of.
Okay.
Thank you, Nicole.
Okay.
Yeah, that we should be on God's side.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's great. So let's get to the stories.
Great, let's do it. We're gonna start with Nicole. Bum 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 bum. Cha 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 dun 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 dun.
It's Chariots of Fire.
Dun bum 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 bum. Cha 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 dun dun. Yeah.
Okay.
Vangelis. For you. At least it's not a musical.
That's true. That's true.
So Chariot of Fire.
Chariot of Fire. And this is Elijah when he is taken up to heaven. He and kind of his protege, Elisha.
And couldn't they have like a more different name? No, it has to be
No.
Elijah and Elisha. So it is.
Yeah. You know, good things come in pairs.
That's right.